your posture is strongly affected by computer work, and some of you might be experiencing often having neck pain, shoulder pain, maybe tingling and numbness in the hands, lower back pain, and it comes and goes, and we're working and we kind of do this a little bit and then we go back to it, we do some stretches, raise our arms, but it just seems to keep coming back, and then we need more massages and things like that. So I just thought I'd mention a few things that might be going on to help you try to sort of combat that. You're basically combating what's happening when you're working on the laptop. You have to offset it. And I never did that, which is why I ended up with what's called scapular winging. So the scapula bone just sort of pops out from your back. That's when I first noticed there was a real problem. Of course, I had lots of pain, constant pain, and I just kept ignoring it like most people. But it took me to a point where if I touch a computer, it just, my entire body, upper body is in pain. It just won't let me do it anymore. It's pretty interesting. So I did a lot of rehabilitation, a lot of rotator cuff work, and I just wanted to share a few things that might be going on. So most people who work on computers have forward head posture. So your shoulder should align with this arch here of your bone. And most people are like this. That's the first thing, of course. Because you're leaning forward, your shoulders roll in and come forward. That stretches out a lot of muscles that should be tight. And your thoracic spine develops a larger curve. You develop what's called anterior pelvic tilt. So when you're walking around, you probably have some lower back pain. And you develop what you would call a weak serratus anterior, which the serratus anterior keeps that scapula bone attached nicely to your back. And without that muscle being strong, it just pops right out. So using the mouse, typically what's going to happen is the scapular winging will happen on the mouse hand. So switching the mouse back and forth is definitely not a bad practice, but that will not resolve the issue because the actual muscles are not being strengthened and tightened, and the tension in your back is not equaling the tension in the front. Everything gets short and tight here, it pulls you down. Everything here is getting weaker. We need to pull ourselves back up. So some people buy straps that help bring their shoulders back, but essentially that's compensating for a lack of tension and strength in your muscles in your back. And some people just try to maintain a good posture, that's great. But again, your body should naturally be able to hold an upright posture without having to do any extra work. So one thing I found valuable through all of my rehabilitative work has been the bands. They're very cheap, and you can do rotator cuff exercises with them. You can Google band rotator cuff exercises and pick up a band, but I'll just show you some of the basic ones that a lot of people do. Usually they're called like I or Y or T for the shape you do. So for example, this would be a T shape. Just pulling the band apart and holding the tension at the back. I can't demonstrate because I don't have a pole to attach it to, but if you could attach it to something, you could do something like a Y. Or if you wrapped it around your knees or your feet, you could do an I. Essentially, you're practicing all of the rotations, external rotations, and extensions, so that we're tightening and strengthening the rotator cuff muscles in the back. Another one is to attach to a bar or something and open up here for your infraspinatus. Some of these muscles will run along here, the rotator cuff muscles. There's also on the inside as well, which will be tight. So if you wanted to go so far as buying something like a Swiss ball, you could stretch these out by looking for pec minor stretches, pec major stretches. Open this up, because this is pulling you down. And this pulling you down, weak serratus anterior, which doesn't keep your scapula attached, and weak rotator cuff muscles in the back, all of that stuff mixed together. If you just look at yourself from a standing position, see if your shoulder seems to point forward, and see how your hands are when you're standing. Your thumbs ideally should be pointed forward. A lot of people, they're rotated in. That's the first indicator that there is a tension imbalance happening. I mean, it could be many things, but these are just the most common things that happen to computer workers, particularly digital nomads. Everyone's getting on Zoom these days, but people like me, we really put ourselves through the grinder, doing it every day. And you know, I would work sometimes at night, on the weekend, things like that, and I would just keep pushing it, right? So I was constantly in a position where I didn't have a great ergonomic desk, maybe a standing desk. I didn't have my arms at 90 degrees when I was typing. I usually had a laptop keyboard and I was sitting at a McDonald's or something. And unless you have somebody next to you to point it out, you won't realize, but you almost get sucked into your screen like a vortex, and all of a sudden, if you had a picture of yourself from the side, you realize you were leaning right in there. Maybe that's to do with display resolution, maybe it's just a natural progression, but I find most people, when they're working on computers after a few hours, they just sort of get sucked into it. Of course, cell phones and tablets are a problem. There's that text neck, they call it, but honestly, I feel like the computer work is making things much worse. So in terms of the forward head posture, there's a few things you can do. There's exercises, I can't really stand up here, but exercises like the wall lean, where you would stand up and you would rotate your head forward and almost try to flatten your cervical spine against the wall. And you would try to give yourself a double chin and press in against the wall. You could go this far, or you could be standing and essentially lift your body slightly off, adding more pressure. So you're actually stretching the muscles here that are going to be really tight. The ones that where you get a massage right at the base of your skull, they're going to be really tense. So we're stretching that. At the same time though, tucking the chin and pressing back, we're strengthening the deep cervical flexors, which will help keep our head back. Another thing that happens is these big straps along the side, the sternocleidomastoids, these guys will get tight. So when these guys get tight, what they do is they bring the head forward. When the head's forward, you have to be looking at the horizon naturally, so you tilt forward. So you've got a forward head, partially because of tight sternocleidomastoid. You could look for SCM stretches on YouTube. An example of one is just to have a hand on a chair or around you, lean your head to the right, and then lean your head as if you're trying to get it to your back right shoulder blade, and then sort of twist up slightly. You'll start to feel it. You can even bring your hand along it and see where the origin is, and place some tension on it, and maybe look up, or even push your jaw out. Stretches like that. Again, you can search for these on the internet. There's lots of them. Maybe find your favorite one. Maybe come up with a daily routine. My girlfriend works on the computer, and we've built 4 different daily routines, and just every day we do them just to try and offset what's going to happen. It's really just a matter of time, unfortunately, and there's really not enough awareness about this. And I know that big offices, I worked in a big office, they once had an ergonomist come in, you know, they want to make sure that your posture looks nice and is correct. But again, they didn't mention the root cause of the issue. There wasn't an actual physiotherapist. Those things are of course very expensive and individualized, and there's always other syndromes that can be going on, like scoliosis, other things that can be causing this pain. But there's really these warning signs that happen in people, like they'll feel some numbness in their fingers and they'll have to shake it out all the time. That's a warning sign that the innervation that's coming from your spine down your arms is impinged in some way, which is typically starts with your posture, because all of that tension and all of that improper motion of your spine creates impingement. Could be one side, could be the other. Basically, we don't 100% know what's causing it, but just maybe take a look at the things I've said and see if you feel, maybe take a picture of yourself from the side, just standing normally, not trying to have great posture, just see what it looks like, and search the internet for ideal posture and see what should align. And you can always just make some comments there, but I just wanted to quickly share that because it's hard for me to go by a cafe or anywhere or see people on Zoom and just, I know what's coming for them. And for me, it really changed my career. I don't work in IT anymore for this primary reason. And I had no idea that would come, right? I was too busy building my certifications, upgrading my Microsoft certification, Apple, Cisco, all these things. And then all of a sudden it was like, what? I can't use a computer? That's so silly. And somebody who hasn't really gone through it wouldn't understand it, right? They would just say, toughen up. But it's really not a matter of that, because the pain that happens, it'll continue. So if you work 8 hours, you're not going to enjoy your evening. And you might have pain until the moment you go get to sleep. You probably won't sleep correctly because you keep rotating on different sides and adjusting and having different pillows, different ergonomics, and then you don't get enough rest, and the cycle repeats the next day. And then you have deadlines and things are getting in the way. And what do? You go see a massage therapist, a chiropractor, and depending what they say to you, you might sort of just rely on them for some relief of the pain, without maybe trying to tackle some of the, essentially the root cause. One last couple things is to give yourself some relief. If you have a Swiss ball, this one always helped me out, is just to lie over the Swiss ball and just chill out and see how that feels. Just a couple minutes of doing that can help a lot. Sitting on a Swiss ball and working will help you use your stabilizer muscles and help you with your low back pain if you're hiking or whatever you're doing on the weekend. Otherwise, foam rollers are great. You can mobilize your spine with a foam roller. If you feel like your upper spine is curving too much, you can just gently lean over for a few seconds. You can feel each vertebra here. And just feel that extension in your spine, because your thoracic spine is so used to being in flexion. It just holds that position, gets tight. So doing that might just have this releasing effect and might cause some great relief, and it's actually working towards fixing the problem rather than, I'm not saying the massage is bad or chiropractors are bad, it's more that the more pain you have when you go to a massage, that means the more muscle imbalance you likely have. So if you're always getting massages and your neck is always killing you, or your shoulder, right in where the shoulder blades are, is always killing you on one side or the other, then you might want to look into these things. Forward head posture, anterior pelvic tilt, scapular winging, syndrome X, which is basically all of that together, rounded shoulders, and I'll just leave it at that, but I just wanted to throw that out for you guys. I hope somebody might find this helpful, or at least it helps you realize that there's other alternatives instead of just dealing with the pain day in and day out. Thanks.